Chance to have a glimpse of those prizes, Ross. A couple of important pieces on Aleksander's side with the Dragapult and the Dragcloak, but that pink Prime Catcher is going to be one to keep an eye on because it's at the very top. Typically won't see it very long, but here we go. Handshake.
There is the handshake, and we are rolling with the Stuttgart Pokemon trading card game regionals final, and it seems like we're going to be starting with Nikolai benching that Duskull with a lovely James Turner artwork, a Charmander in the active, an energy on the Charmander, and we are fully rolling here, but not a great turn from Nikolai. That was the entire turn, Alex.
Yeah, would have loved to try to get more Pokemon on the board state. Remember, we spoke about it before with that Fan Rotom inclusion in that deck, a way to try and build out a board. It's just the boss's orders at the moment onto that Duskull, though. Both players look like they might be struggling a little bit. Psychic Energy attachment to the Duskull. With the boss's orders done happening on that Duskull there, we have an Itchy Pollen. We're in for a very, very strange final at the moment, Ross.
Right now, neither player has got much of anything. Both players have a Duskull. Now, the good news is Aleksander's done that whole Itchy Pollen thing that he likes to do at the beginning of a game. The bad news is you generally want to combine that with, like, Dreepy on the bench, some energy attachments to Pokemon you actually want to attack with, things of that nature. Instead, it is just an Itchy Pollen, but the good news is there'll be no rare candy into a stage 2 for Nikolai, no Buddy Poffin to get extra basics. So with the board as it is, that Badoo can be pretty harsh.
Yeah, imagine if Nikolai did have access to items, could eventually actually just wipe the whole board of Aleksander. But like you mentioned, that Itchy Pollen really causing chaos there, meaning that rare candy to a Charizard is not quite possible at the moment. We do see a Dawn come down, allowing you to search yourself for a basic Pokemon, a stage 1 Pokemon, and a stage 2, and put them into your hand. A great inclusion into deck archetypes like this, as it looks like we're targeting one of those Hoots, one of those Charmeleons that we've seen from Phantasmal Flames, and that Charizard EX.
Yeah, Dawn is one of the best cards from Phantasmal Flames, and really getting Nikolai out of a bind here. Being able to search out those 3 cards from one supporter when you're item locked is a huge advantage. And of course, once you've got a Terra Pokemon in play, that Hoot can become a knockdown and search out 2 trainers. Next turn, you've got the Charizard ready to go. Are you going to be able to get that? Well, right now, it's a Charmeleon attacking into a Badoo, and you don't even need weakness. It actually did 80 damage, more than enough, and Aleksander is in a clock here because we know there's a Charizard in hand. That's not an issue. Charizard is going to be hitting for 180 next turn.
I do see an Iono supporter in Aleksander's hand right now. We do get the Night Stretcher, and the Buddha's coming straight back down onto the board. We do have that free retreat because of that energy attachment from the first turn there, a Vol up to the Dusclops and an Iono to boot. So this might be an opportunity now to really turn the game around, because we know we're putting that Charizard EX to the bottom of the deck. But Aleksander really needs to get going. He needs some of those Dreepies down as soon as possible. Do we have any? Looks like there might be one there in hand, Ross.
And we need to get some Dreepy. We're going to have to get some at some point. One is not ideal. You want multiple, but you're right. There's one in hand there. And we do have an Ultra Ball as well. Nikolai might be item locked, but Aleksander very much is not. So that means you can, at the very least, go ahead and get yourself another basic Pokemon. Worth noting, there's only 2 Charizard in the deck for Nikolai. One is now definitely at the bottom of the deck, so your base, and the other one is actually in the prizes. You are not drawing into Charizard. You have to find a Dawn here under item lock, or you're not getting your Charizard.
Good thing is, with Nikolai's deck, he does play 4 copies of it. He has obviously used one already, as Aleksander finally does get a chance to work out those prizes just from this first deck search he's got going here. I mean, it'd be hard-pressed to not select a Dreepy from this moment. He does have one in hand as well. I think I did eye up another Iono also in that hand. So even if we do see another steady fire breathing, I think the attack is on that Charmeleon to knock out the Badoo once again, we can really start to get things going once more as we progress the game state. But Aleksander really does need those Dragapult lines as soon as possible. Otherwise, we're in for a real tough time.
It's not going to be going well. Now, an interesting little side note in Nikolai's deck. Although you need to have a terrestrial Pokemon in play to activate that Noctowl engine, does play some basic Terrapagos, which will then activate the Noctowl. So there is an option for next turn to go Terrapagos, then play the Noctowl, then you can search something like a Dawn, and then that would potentially get you rolling. But the combination of Ino and Itchy Pollen, that is becoming really awkward for Nikolai right now. And you cut down to 2 Charizard to make room for everything else. One's at the bottom of the deck, one's in the prizes. You are really reliant on stuff like Dawn and another Badoo?
Yeah, I think it's just looking for an opportunity. Maybe just to kind of, he's going to have to do multiple Itchy Pollens for during this game to maybe even get a Dreepy into a Drecloak, into a Dragapult at some stage. Knowing this Badoo is an easy target to go down to steady fire breathing, maybe that's the route we're going down. We do have one Dreepy in hand, remember, and then we can continue to chain those Ionos and maybe really slow the game down on your opponent's side of the board. There's the Itchy Pollen on that Charmeleon down to 100 HP now. It's on Nikolai to try and find a way out of this scenario. Does have Noctowl in hand, does have the Dawn as well, Ross.
Dawn, absolutely amazing. And what you can do here is you kind of want a Charmander, but what you can do here is potentially go for a Terrapagos as your basic to then activate. Oh, you got the Charizard anyway, you're good. Get the Charizard, get the Noctowl. Noctowl is on, and then there's a basic and a stage 1 you can search as well.
Yeah, it's always quite nice because it allows you to grab those Dusknoir or Dusclops pieces at the same time. I mean, there's so many Pokemon you can search out, as we do see the instant evolution up to that Dusclops. Now Curse Plus is live. That Pidgey's coming down as well from that basic Pokemon search, or maybe it was already in hand. It was either that or the Charmander, and we do get the big bad Charizard EX in the active spot. Now Infernal Rain live, raining down some fire energies onto his board state, ready to start swinging with that Burning Darkness attack.
It's going very well for Nikolai now. If he wasn't item locked, you could go and grab, you know, a Pidgeot and a rare candy from your Noctowl and just go absolutely crazy here. Not an option right now. You are item locked. You are on a slower game plan, but your opponent's got no real attacker set up, and you've got a Charizard rolling, hitting for 180. You are going to be able to stream a couple of attacks together. And the thing is, you've got that Hoot that can evolve. Maybe this turn, maybe you don't even need anything this turn. It's there when you're ready. And no, it is just a hit for 180 here. Get the KO. That Noctowl can come out next turn. At some point, that Pidgey can become a Pidgeot. Nikolai really setting up for future turns here, although do note that that Prime Catcher is prized.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Ino is played down now. Does get that Neo Upper NG attachment to the Dreepy, but we have to remember Aleksander is playing that Dragapult deck with no rare candy, so there's no way to burst into a big bad attacker of his own right. He does have to kind of slow the game down, and that's probably why the direction of going down a third Badoo effectively is enough to try and slow the game down that little bit more, as we do get the Dracloak here from the Ultra Ball. It's going to be really important to hit some more pieces. Going to need to find some more Dreepies at the same time. There's a Nest Ball that will get him another, and it's going to be the next turn that we're sort of telepathing that we're going to start swinging with that Phantom Dive as soon as possible.
The issue here is going to be if Nikolai is able to get a Boss's Orders or a Noctowl, which can search out the Boss's Orders very easily, because there is a tantalizing target on Aleksander's side of the board. There is a question. Do you know Aleksander's playing no rare candy? Yeah, there is a decent chance.
Yeah, very true, very true.
If you know that, then you can start going after Dracloak. And that means that you can basically cut your opponent off of Dragapult, and that is going to be a big deal. We see Recon Directive, that does get a Dusknoir, so that's a big damage that can come out in the future. Right now, Itchy Pollen.
Yeah, I wonder if there's ever an opportunity to maybe even to try to target the Hoot to try to limit that potential Noctowl, but where it's not, it is just an Itchy Pollen.
Noctowl, it's in hand, and I feel very confident I know what one of these two cards is going to be. Go and get that Boss's Orders, take out that bench Dracloak, and it's not just that you're taking out a stage 1 with no rare candy to burst into a stage 2, but it's also the fact that you're taking all the energy off the board. Neo Upper is your one chance for a 1 energy attachment Dragapult. That's gone when it goes away. There's got to be a Boss's Orders coming out here.
Yeah, you got to be feeling pretty good with yourself here. If you're in Nikolai's shoes right now, we're just kind of making it a little bit easier for everyone to follow along as well with those damage counters on those Pokemon. Of course, that Charizard taking grass weak damage because of that Badoo's Itchy Pollen, now up to 3 damage on it. So it's down to 300. But here we go, Boss's Orders and another Dawn there, kind of just waiting in the wings. Like Ross has already mentioned, targeting that Draclo is probably going to be the biggest thing on this turn here. Despite being under item lock, it's not too much of an issue. Although, has just decided...
playing the Dawn right now, choosing not to go after the Dragapult. You still got that boss banked for next turn, but right now saying, look, I know I can go after the Dragapult, but, we've actually got the Dusknoir. We're going after the Dragapult anyway with Dusknoir. Now we're going to see another KO from the Charizard. Nikolai is going to go down to just 2 prize cards remaining with and I cannot stress this enough, vastly superior setup. And Aleksander at this stage, we've got to be close to the end of game 1.
Yeah, one of the great things about doing that as well, because you've popped your own Dusknoir and utilized your own Curse Blast, you've also allowed Aleksander to take a prize, meaning if he ever finds a Lily's Determination, he's not getting a full 8 cards that typically you might often see. He will be having to work with 6. But this is where it's a little bit awkward right now. Aleksander having to use his own Dusknoir Curse Blast of his own. Looks like he's targeting that active. The total.
Well, this gets a KO now. The Charizard is just out of reach of a Blood Moon Ursaluna, and it is a Lily, but like you say, it's not going to be for 8. It's going to be for 6. Lovely little, we see a lot using it to give your opponent prizes to activate stuff like Counter Catcher, but actually hurting your opponent as well is really very fun. Has now drawn every prize but the Prime Catcher.
Yeah, and the other great thing, because he's popped his own Dusknoir as well, he knows there's not too much of a threat a song side right now, just on Nikolai's board state, but by just taking the knockout because of that season skill ability to allow the Blood Moon Ursaluna EX to utilize that fantastic Blood Moon attack that it's got, does mean he will be taking a massive knockout here and also doing it very efficiently, and that's why we have that energy attachment to the Dreepy, which has now just become a Dracloak as well. We're looking to try and turn this game around where possible. Here comes the Recon Directive, 2 cards. I think I saw another Counter Catcher as options of the 2. Yep, just aims and targets that Dragapult EX there, which is going to be so vital.
I do have bad news though. Now that you've taken 3 prizes, Charizard will KO Blood Moon Ursaluna. So if there's a world in which you can just find a Knockdowel, you can go Rare Candy, Charizard, get the energy and go.
Needs a terrestrial Pokemon first. A couple of pieces to begin with.
Needs a Terrapagos and then a Knockdowel.
And there it is.
Get the Terrapagos. I mentioned it earlier. It was just a couple turns too early.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just a couple of pieces there, but he was working with his whole hand because it wasn't disrupted by another Iono. There's the Terrapagos EX.
That's turning on Knockdowel.
Completely unlock what could be available for him. Does have Noctowl in hand, it looked like.
All we need is a Bull Search like an Ultra Ball and a Rare Candy. Both can be searched off of a Knockdowel, and at that point, you can just evolve up. Charizard gets its own energy, so that's not an issue. You're hitting 180 plus 90 for the free prizes your opponent's taken. That's 270 against a Blood Moon Ursaluna that only has 260. So we do see a Rare Candy.
Does have Pidgeot in hand, so maybe going down this route first.
There's Pidgeot, which has free retreat, so there's the pivot.
There's the Area 0 Underdex to kind of gain some more additional cards. Can go down the route of picking up the Pheasantipity as well. But likely, it looks like it's just a concession here in this game 1 of the Masters final here at the Stuttgart Regional Championships. It is Nikolai who takes game 1. He's 1 game closer to earning himself a direct invitation to that World Championships.
Yeah, here we go. Back in the start of game 1, we see the setup was not looking great for either player. Charmeleon taking out a Badoo. Okay, then fine, if that's the best you can manage. And it was a lot of Itchy Pollen from Aleksander, but it's in that situation we've been talking about all weekend where your opponent can just take these prizes. When the Charizard came out almost entirely because of that Dawn supporter, now you've got this big Pokemon which can go after your opponent and just take prize after prize. This was the key moment in the game. The Dusknoir taking out that Dragapult. That is why, the Dracloak. That's why Dragapult never really came out this game, and that meant that Charizard could just keep attacking, and then at the end here, after Blood Moon took out Charizard, it meant that there was just too much that we could do in terms of KOs, and that was going to be the game. Nikolai, 1 game up. Aleksander already has a direct invite. Can't really get another, but can get the $10,000 for winning, which I think might be their main goal at this point.
Yeah, I mean, both players are still in a fantastic spot to earn so many different prizes across the money, across the booster packs, across the championship points, potentially the extra direct invitation that is still on the line here for Nikolai, but he's put himself in a fantastic spot. He is up against it. It is typically a fairly rough matchup for Charizard when you're facing up against Dragapult, with something we mentioned at the start of this round.
Did not look rough last game.
Well, it certainly didn't, but it looked rough for both players for a second.
It did indeed.
But Aleksander's going to be looking to try and literally flip the script. Couldn't have access to that Pheasantipity because it was prized in the last game, but let's see if our Dragapult player will be able to turn this around.
Absolutely, that is going to be the goal. And if you're Nikolai, you're sitting there going, well, look, I know this isn't the best matchup for me, but I'm already one up. I need to win one of the next 2 games. And now I'm feeling like this is absolutely doable. It's not fun. We talked with Daniel Magda in a previous regional. When you go into that final knowing you're at a disadvantage, but then kind of you win one game and you start thinking, well, all right then. Even though it's not the best matchup, now I've got to win 1 out of 2. This is feeling a lot more doable. We again have a Charizard prized and a Dawn and a Noctowl. Only Blood Moon prized as well for Aleksander, so a few dodgy things there.
Yeah, but a great start if Nikolai is the one that's going to be going first. He has opened that Fan Rotom, has that fantastic ability, Fan Call, where once during your first turn, you may search your deck for up to 3 colorless Pokemon with 100 HP or less. And how does that combo so well with this deck? Well, you can pick up those pieces like those Hoot-Hoots, like a Noctowl, like a Pidgey, and this is an opportunity here with this Ultra Ball to work out what is prized, what he's going to be working with for the rest of this game. A couple of those energies prized, as we've already mentioned and seen, does play 5 copies of those, so still can get full value from an Infernal Rain at some stage. But this is where Nikolai's deck really comes to the fore, and just this Fan Call's impressive and such a cool inclusion into a Charizard deck.
It's so nice when you can search out the Pidgey and those Hoot-Hoots so early. I did, and now I'm embarrassed to say, I played a Stellar Crown pre-release, and I had Fan Rotom, and I said, oh, that's a really good ability, but I don't really need it now. I'm going to save it for next turn. And then next turn came and I actually read Fan Rotom and I realized, oh, should have used that the previous turn. Well, here we do see the Fan Call coming out. There's a Charmander down, and now we're going to see a bunch of little colorless Pokemon. We've got ourselves a Pidgey, we got ourselves a Hoot-Hoot, and then also grabbing a Noctowl to evolve up next turn instead, which is, you know, that gets you 2 trainer cards. It's really good.
Yeah, incredible. It's a nice way to combo alongside that Pidgey. I'm sure that's what Nikolai's going to be looking to do on his next turn. At the same time, Aleksander's going to be looking to once again slow the game down. Remember, with Dragapult EX, especially with this Dragapult Dusknoir version with no rare candies, you have to play the slower, longer game. Here comes a Buddy Poffin. We're going to at some point be looking for that Badoo, slow the game down, and really get into those Drag Cloaks, into that Dragapult, and maybe start decimating your opponent's board with the damage counter placements, with potentially even the Monkey Dory sort of weaved in where possible as well. So lots of things to keep an eye out for as Aleksander does go through his deck to work out exactly what's prized on his side.
And that is the goal. When you're playing this game, you have 6 prizes down. Those are cards that are unavailable to you for the game. So what the good players do at every, first search, every game, you got to look through your deck and you got to try and figure out what's prized. Aleksander is currently finding out that his Blood Moon Ursaluna is unavailable. So a play like he pulled off last game, getting that key KO towards the end of the game, that is no longer an option. When Nikolai does a search, they're going to find out that for the 2nd game in a row, Charizard is prized. But also things like there's a Noctowl prize. There's only 1 available in the deck. Maybe that makes it more important to search it out with Rotom's Fan Call turn 1 so that you've got that guaranteed card rather than having to hope you find an out to it later, especially under item lock.
Yeah, absolutely. Under item lock is going to be such a key aspect here, because typically what you'd like to do from Nikolai's side is utilize that Noctowl to go straight into something like a rare candy and a Dawn, maybe then allows you to go straight into your Pidgeot. This is where the kind of colorless combos start coming together. But Aleksander, I'm sure, just is thinking, I have to stop this rare candy. That Badoo is going to be so important, especially for these early turns. One of the awkward spots, again, another thing we've got to keep an eye on, that Latias EX, despite being a great card with the Skyliner ability to maneuver back into the Badoo so we can start launching some of those itchy pollens, is weak to dark. It's an easy target for Charizard EX.
Very easy target, and of course gives up 2 prizes, and it's kind of going to be stuck on the board unless you play your one Professor Turo scenario to get it off the board. It is going to sit there as an easy 2 prizes to be gusted up at some point. We know Nikolai plays Prime Catcher. There's a couple of Boss's Orders in the deck, so that is going to be something to look out for. It's a card you'd rather not have on the field against Charizard, but if you start it, you have no option. It does at least give itself free retreat, though.
Absolutely. Skyliner is a fantastic ability. We've seen it across this weekend throughout because it enables attacks and turns like this. Looks like that Buddy Poffin has targeted the Duskull alongside the Badoo here. So we're just going to see what angle Aleksander. Maybe he has a Dreepy in hand already. We do know that one Dreepy is prized, so it's just depending on how else we're going to work. Yeah, we could definitely see another Dreepy there. Boss's Orders on the Pidgey, just to enable and not allow that Fan Rotom to just salt landing because there's another efficient attacker. Now just slowing the game down. Itchy Pollen on that Pidgey. First attack of this game 2 in your Masters final.
And that is going to mean there's no item cards for Nikolai for his following turn. And, you know, Pidgey does not have free retreats, and it doesn't have an attack which can KO Badoo, so it's going to be a little more annoying. Here we get a Terrapagos coming down. Really important because that turns on the ability of Noctowl. And it seems like we are playing a Dawn here. Well, we already had the Noctowl, but now we can get 3 other Pokemon, a basic, a stage 1, and a stage 2.
Actually, I think if Nikolai had access to his item cards, his hand was pretty cracked. I think I just caught a glimpse. I think there's Pidgeot EX in there, there's a Rare Candy in there, there's a Noctowl. He could have exploded on this turn. But because of Itchy Pollen, we're going to have to slow the game down. We're going to have to go down that route of the Charmeleon once again to kind of slow evolve because we don't play Pidgeotto in this list. I'm just double checking again. Yeah, I don't think so. So we're just going to have to go into something like either the Dusclops or the Charmeleon for this moment at least, and then kind of work our way through there.
And that's the thing you find, these Charizard decks, they're fitting so much in, but they go, look, I've got Noctowl to search out 2 trainers. I've got Pidgeot to search out any card during my turn. I'm going to be a bit greedy with my list, but it means that I can, you know, search stuff out, but it means no Rare Candy. It makes Badoo a lot more relevant. Well, now we go back over to Alexander and their trusty Badoo. And it looks like we are going to be using Dusclops here. Yeah, KO the Pidgey. Love it. You know what can't happen if you KO Pidgey? Pidgeot can't come out.
Absolutely, and I do wonder if he had to do that because his hand wasn't very strong, maybe didn't have a supporter to really go into too much. Yeah, that hand is not looking pretty, Ross. He had to do that to even try and find maybe an additional draw card here because I just see like Jamming Tower, maybe yeah, I think there's a Dragapult EX.
Energy.
It's looking rough here for Alexander. He's really up against it. Just got that Badoo in the active spot. But how else do we deal with it? It's just an Itchy Pollen on that Charmeleon. Nikolai does have that Charizard EX in the hand. Both prizes, both players have taken a prize each thus far. So Nikolai's got a real great initiative here, even without Pidgey on the board, to go into a Pidgeot at some stage, as we do get an Infernal Rain coming down now, getting those Fire Energies out of the deck. Burning Darkness will be available to really over-KO this Badoo.
And of course, well, I'm not sure we even want to go for Badoo here. We got Noctowl in our hand ready to go. If we want a Boss's Orders, we can have a Boss's Orders. And I'm looking at this board and I'm thinking, you did very little last turn. I am pretty sure your hand is terrible. So if I KO your only Dreepy, you know, you're thinking about things like, well, what if they've got a Dragapult in hand and they just want a candy? Or they've just got a candy and they just want a Dragapult? Well, that's not an option if I take out that Dreepy. If you didn't know your opponent wasn't playing candy, you might have a much better idea after game 1. I really want to go after the Dreepy. Here comes the Noctowl. And you've got to think, I know last time we saw Dawn instead, but come on. Surely it's Boss's Orders time, Alex.
Yeah, it's got to be targeting that Dreepy right now. I mean, I know Badoo's annoying to work and deal with, but at the same time...
Oh, not even mucking about. Double boss's orders. And I love this because I'm going to get Dreepy. And then, oh, what's that? You got a terrible hand, but you managed to get into one more Dreepy. Say goodbye. Or maybe just a Latias if you want. Either way, this Charizard is wreaking havoc.
Yeah, Charizard really setting up here. That Dreepy staring down at a big terror Pokemon. Big Burning Darkness, Latias and Badoo on Aleksander's side of the field right now. What are we working with? What is that one card? He does have a Night Stretcher to bring Dreepy back. Knows it could be easily targeted. I think it was a Hawlucha. Doesn't want to attach the energy because he knows he has boss's orders. He's going to have to just Itchy Pollen again.
But now we know what's going to happen. Nikolai's going, look, I've already got my Charizard. I don't even really need items right now. I am going to boss's orders your Dreepy. You do need to start preparing just in case an Ino can come down later on. We do see the boss's orders onto the only Dreepy here, and we know that Blood Moon Ursaluna is prized. That's the emergency attacker in this deck, but not this game, Alex. It ain't there.
Yeah, not like this, Ross. Not like this. He's finally here, supporter there. We do have an Iono now, but is it too little, too late? Aleksander has to fire off that Iono, hoping to try and slow down Nikolai's just board setup. I mean, he doesn't have Pidgeot, he doesn't have Hoot, so he doesn't really have much draw there. Aleksander will have to try and slow the game down. Does hit a counter catcher and a Dreepy as well. Maybe this is the moment, an opportunity to just try and slow the game down enough to get back into it.
And that's what it has to be. Oh, but actually just went and grabbed a Hoot and a Noctowl. Not relevant now, but could be an Eternal too. No way to pivot the Noctowl out of the active, it looks like.
No, not right now. Does have some cards he can play out of the deck for the moment because there is that Dawn once again. We've seen how pivotal that's been, but there is no bench space. Remember, there are 5 bench Pokemon.
But we could Dawn for a Dusclops, use Dusclops to KO something like a Badoo, and that opens up a space for the Hoot so we can use Knockdown next turn as an example. And then that would give an out next turn unless an Ino came down again, which I do actually see in Aleksander's hand, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the choice of that Dawn. It looks like that Dusclops and the Dusknoir. I do wonder if it's the decision of maybe holding off, firing off a Curse Blast, maybe until you evolve up to the Dusknoir as well, and then maybe make it an even more important sort of Curse Blast KO at some stage. It's going to be a real tricky one. Just a maneuver here, but it looks like Aleksander will get one turn, at least for the time being.
The problem is, we know Aleksander doesn't play any rare candy. So evolve up into Dusclops now, hold, next turn, worst case scenario, your opponent's got a Dracloak when you can Dusknoir it. Yeah. And then it's gone away anyway.
Yeah, Nikolai looked like he was about to gesture to the Curse Blast. Oh, just keeps touching it, keeps moving it. I'm so interested about whether he's
thinking about it. But Badoo goes down. That's one more prize. Nikolai, 2 prizes away from winning the game. May well have just been trying to grab an extra card there. Was a Fire Energy. What's Noctowl's retreat cost, Alex?
It's just 1 energy. Is it a Fire Energy? Yeah, so he's able to retreat.
That's good.
Aleksander was about to put the Latias EX in the active spot. Does get the attachment and retreat, and will take out the only Dreepy once again. And Aleksander is in real dire straits right now. There's the big Burning Darkness. A 2-prize and Latias EX left remaining on the board. What can Aleksander do?
Well, we put a Dreepy down, we play an Ino, and it is Ino and a prayer. And I just want to go back to that last play for a second. We used the Dusclops to KO the Badoo. It drew 1 prize. That prize was a Fire Energy. That was what allowed you to pivot that Noctowl out of the active and then get another prize. But it really is as simple as Aleksander has to get that Charizard out the active. Any KO from Charizard will end the game here.
Just double checking. Wasn't that just the Dreepy that was placed down on that turn? I'm not too sure if you could evolve it. Because I thought he just put it down because it only had a Dreepy and a Latias in play. I'll get double confirmation. Maybe I missed something, but I believe that was just a Dreepy played on that turn. because it was just KO'd. It was just the Dreepy and the Latias that was remaining on the last turn when he then promoted the Dreepy that got knocked out by Burning Darkness. He then benched
Well, either way, I see cards going down. I see a handshake, and I see Nicolai Stiborg as your Stuttgart regional champion for the Pokemon trading card game. Direct invite to the World Championship secured. First regional championship secured. Charizard is well and truly back, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. Incredible display. What a deck that we've seen multiple times on stream already. That fist bump to the crowd. Your Stuttgart Regional TCG Masters champion, Nicolai Stiborg.
Yes, absolutely fantastic game there. Second regional in a row, we sit here and we go, well, one of these decks has a bit of an advantage, and second regional in a row, it is the other deck which actually ends up becoming the champion. And now Nicolai Stiborg can sit there and go, well, you know what? Now I've got my regional championship. Now I've built on all of those results in the past. Now I can be one of those players to watch in the future. And this is a name, if you